The whole drama between Karoline and The View just escalated to another level. Now it looks like the hosts are in full panic mode, scrambling to piece things back together after Karoline absolutely wrecked them. And let's be real, did they have it coming? A lot of people sure think so. Now this is where the irony hits like a freight train. These hosts love preaching about uplifting women, especially in the workplace, but the second Karoline steps up, boom, suddenly all that empowerment talk disappears and they reduce her success to nothing more than her looks. And let me tell you, people noticed. Critics dragged them for it because seriously, how can you claim to support women while tearing down a young, accomplished one in the same breath? The hypocrisy is so loud, it's practically screaming. But here's where it gets good. Karoline wasn't about to sit back and take it, oh no. She fired back and exposed The View for exactly what they are. Out of touch, agenda-driven, and drowning in their own double standards. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. But hold up! If Karoline is a 10, where does that leave Joy Behar? Well, leave it to Greg Gutfeld from Fox News to deliver the punchline in his signature no mercy style. Greg didn't hold back, throwing some serious shade at Joy, and let's just say his commentary did not do her any favors. Caitlyn is humiliated, and Karoline? She just became more respected than ever. So here's the real question. Will CNN actually learn from this, or will they double down on their usual tactics? Either way, one thing is clear. Karoline Leavitt just raised the bar. And for CNN, that's a nightmare they won't be waking up from anytime soon. Trump described her as smart, tough, and an extremely effective communicator. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Leavitt is a New Hampshire native with a background in communications and political science from St. Anselm College. But she wasn't just studying, she was already making moves. While still in school, she interned at Fox News and even worked in Trump's White House press office. She once told Politico that those experiences gave her her first real taste of the press world, and from that moment on, she knew this was the career she wanted. By 2019, fresh out of college, she was already working in the Trump administration. She started as a presidential speechwriter before moving up to assistant press secretary. During her time there, she helped prep Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany for some of the toughest press briefings and went toe-to-toe with the biased mainstream media. And after leaving the White House, she didn't slow down. She became communications director for top Republican Elise Stefanik, who, by the way, is now Trump's pick for United Nations ambassador.
Karoline used her first White House press conference to call out the legacy media for losing the trust of everyday Americans. And just like clockwork, Whoopi pulled the race card, shifting the discussion from media accountability to identity politics. A classic deflection. Rather than addressing the real issue at hand, she went on a tangent saying, because Black people couldn't get into colleges, because women couldn't get into the colleges they wanted to go to, this is all women. But Whoopi didn't stop there. She went full condescension mode, claiming that Karoline doesn't even understand what wokeness means. According to Whoopi, Karoline only criticizes it because she thinks it's a terrible thing to be. Whoopi doubled down, saying, "It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we're fighting for. So that you could stand at that podium, so that Karine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium, so women of all colors and backgrounds, wherever they came from, whatever their beliefs were, could have the opportunity to bust down that door." But let's be honest. Karoline knows exactly what wokeness is, and that's why. She called it out. Whoopi's attempt to gaslight the audience into thinking Karoline was just throwing around buzzwords completely backfired. Now, if you're one of those people who still thinks Karoline Leavitt didn't deserve the job, you're probably one of those who never heard about her background. Karoline Claire Leavitt was born in Atkinson, New Hampshire, and raised in a Roman Catholic family. Her parents ran an ice cream shop and a used truck dealership in Plaistow, New Hampshire. She attended Central Catholic High School in Massachusetts before earning a scholarship to St. Anselm College, where she played NCAA Division II softball. Even back then, she was outspoken about her conservative views, defending Trump's policies in her school newspaper, and even founding the college's first broadcasting club. During her time in college, Leavitt built an impressive media and political resume, setting the stage for her rapid rise in the political world. So, there you have it. Karoline Leavitt is proving she's not just a face in the crowd, she's a force to be reckoned with. Whether it's taking on The View or exposing the flaws in the media, she's making her mark, and it's hard to ignore. Let's see how the rest of the political game plays out. But one thing's for sure, Karoline is here to stay. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
At this point, it's obvious to anyone with eyes. The hosts of The View aren't mad at Karoline because she's wrong. They're mad because she's younger, sharper, and actually deserving of the spotlight they've been hogging for decades. Their jealousy is practically dripping off the screen. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, who swooped in like a mother hen trying to do damage control. But instead of addressing Joy's hypocrisy, she tried to shift the focus, scolding Karoline for what she called a lack of tolerance for weakness. Her exact words, Whoopi wasn't preaching wisdom, she was scrambling. She tried to blur the lines between civil rights and wokeness as if they were the same thing. But Karoline, she wasn't buying it for a second. In a now viral moment, she shut Whoopi down with brutal precision, making it painfully obvious that Whoopi either doesn't know the difference or is deliberately misleading her audience. Now, if Whoopi Goldberg is such a fierce supporter of women's rights, then why didn't she call out Joy Behar for reducing Karoline's success to just her looks? Maybe because Whoopi's so-called moral compass only works when it benefits her narrative. Instead of holding her co-host accountable, she wasted no time turning the conversation against Karoline right after the 27-year-old dared to use her first White House press conference.
Please, his opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those two attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie, and yes, you will take political like we have seen in two instances against President Trump. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally.
One Twitter user summed it up perfectly. Imagine getting embarrassed this badly in front of the whole country. Karoline just ended Caitlyn's career in under 3 minutes. Even CNN's producers are probably shaking their heads behind the scenes. Caitlyn tried everything and still failed spectacularly. And just when she thought it couldn't possibly get worse, oh, it absolutely does. But this isn't just about one bad moment for Caitlyn Collins. This is about why the media keeps losing credibility. They twist facts to push their own narrative. They act like they're the smartest people in the room. But Karoline just proved how quickly they crumble under pressure. Now, CNN is scrambling.